And when they drew near to Jerusalem, and were come near to Bethphage, to the Mount of Olives, then Jesus sent 2 disciples, saying to them, Go into the village over against you, and straightway you will find an ass tied, and a colt with her. Loose them, and bring them to me. And if any man say aught unto you, you will say, The Lord has need of them, and straightway he will send them. All this was done, that it might be fulfilled that was spoken by the prophet, saying, Tell the daughter of Sion, Behold, your king comes to you, meek, and sitting upon an ass, and a colt the foal of an ass. And the disciples went, and did as Jesus commanded them, and brought the ass and the colt, and put them on their clothes, and they set him thereon. And a very great multitude spread their garments in the way. Others cut down branches from the trees, and strawed them in the way. And the multitudes that went before, and that followed, cried, saying, Hosanna, the Son of David, blessed is he that comes in the name of the Lord, Hosanna in the highest. And when it was come into Jerusalem, all the city was moved, saying, Who is this? And the multitude said, This is Jesus, the prophet of Nazareth of Galilee. And Jesus went into the temple of God, and cast out all them that sold and bought in the temple, and overthrew the tables of the money changers, and the seats of them that sold doves, and said to them, It is written, My house will be called the house of prayer, but you have made it a den of thieves. And the blind and the lame came to him in the temple, and he healed them. And when the chief priests and scribes saw the wonderful things that he did, and the children crying in the temple, and saying, Hosanna to the Son of David, they were sore displeased, and said to him, Do you hear what these say? And Jesus said to them, Yea, have you never read, Out of the mouth of babes and sucklings have you perfected praise? And he left them, and went out of the city into Bethany, and he lodged there. Now in the morning as he returned into the city, he hungered. And when he saw a fig tree in the way, he came to it, and found nothing thereon, but leaves only, and said to it, Let no fruit grow on you henceforward forever. And presently the fig tree withered away. And when the disciples saw it, they marveled, saying, How soon is the fig tree withered away? Jesus answered and said to them, Truly I say to you, if you have faith, and doubt not, you will not only do which is done to the fig tree, but also, if you will say to this mountain, Be removed, and be cast into the sea, it will be done. And all things, whatsoever you ask in prayer, believing, you will receive. And when he was come into the temple, the chief priests and the elders of the people came to him as he was teaching, and said, By what authority do you do these things? And who gave you this authority? And Jesus answered and said to him, I will also ask you one thing, that if you tell me, I in likewise will tell you what authority I do these things. The baptism of John, from where was it? From heaven, or of men? And they reasoned with themselves, saying, If we will say from heaven, he will say to us, Why did you not then believe him? But if we will say, of men, we fear the people, for all hold John as a prophet. And they answered Jesus and said, We cannot tell. And he said to them, Neither do I tell you by what authority I do these things. But what do you think? A certain man had 2 sons, and he came to the first and said, Son, go to work in my vineyard. He answered and said, I will not. But afterward he repented and went. And he came to the second, and said likewise. And he answered, I go, sir. And he went not. Which of them did the will of his father? They said to him, The first. Jesus said to him, Truly I say to you, that the publicans and the harlots go into the kingdom of God before you. For John came to you in the way of righteousness, and you believed him not. But the publicans and the harlots believed him. And when you had seen it, you repented not afterward, that you might believe him. Hear another parable. There was a certain householder that planted a vineyard and hedged it round about, and digged a winepress in it, and built a tower, and let it out to husbandmen, and went into a far country. And when the time of the fruit drew near, he sent his servants to the husbandmen, that they might receive the fruits of it. And the husbandman took his servants, and beat one, and killed another, and stoned another. Again, he sent other servants more than the first, and they did to them likewise. But the last of all he sent to them his son, saying, They will reverence my son. But when the husbandmen saw the son, they said among themselves, This is the heir. Come, let us kill him, and let us seize on his inheritance. And they caught him, and cast him out of the vineyard, and slew him. When the Lord therefore of the vineyard comes, what will he do to those husbandmen? They say to him, He will miserably destroy those wicked men, and will let out his vineyard to the other husbandmen, that will render him the fruits of their seasons. Jesus said to them, Did you never read in the Scriptures, The stone that the builders rejected, the same is become the head of the corner. This is the Lord's doing, and it is marvelous in our eyes. Therefore I say to you, the kingdom of God will be taken from you, and given to a nation bringing forth the fruits thereof. And whosoever will fall on this stone will be broken, but on whomsoever it will fall will grind him to powder. And when the chief priests and Pharisees had heard his parables, they perceived that he spoke of them. But when they sought to lay hands on him, they feared the multitude, because they took him for a prophet. And Jesus answered and spoke to them again by parables, and said, The kingdom of heaven is like to a certain king, that made a marriage for his son, and sent forth his servants to call them that were bidden to the wedding, and they would not come. And he sent forth other servants, saying, Tell them that are bidden, Behold, I have prepared my dinner. My oxen and my fatlings are killed, and all things are ready. Come to the marriage. But they made light of it, and went their ways, one to his farm, another to his merchandise. And the remnant took his servants, and entreated them spitefully, and slew them. But when the king heard thereof, he was wroth, and he sent forth his armies, and destroyed those murderers, and burned up their city. Then he said to his servants, The wedding is ready, but they that were bidden were not worthy. Go therefore into the highways, and as many as you find, bid to the marriage. So those servants went out into the highways, and gathered together as many as they found, both bad and good, and the wedding was furnished with guests. And when the king came in to see the guests, he saw there a man that had not on a wedding garment. And he said to him, Friend, how do you come in here not having a wedding garment? And he was speechless. Then the king said to the servants, Bind him hand and foot, and take him away, and cast him into outer darkness. There will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. For many are called, but few are chosen. Then went the Pharisees, and took counsel how they might entangle him in his talk. And they sent out to him their disciples with the Herodians, saying, Master, we know that you are true, and teach the way of God in truth, neither care for any man, for you regard not the person of men. Tell us therefore, what do you think? Is it lawful to give tribute to Caesar or not? But Jesus perceived their wickedness, and said, Why do you tempt me, you hypocrites? Show me the tribute money. And they brought to him a penny. And he said to them, Who is this image and superscription? And they said to him, Seizures. Then he said to them, Render therefore to Caesar the things that are Caesar's, and to God the things that are God's. When they had heard these words, they marveled and left him, and went their way. The same day came to him Sadducees, who say that there is no resurrection, and asked him, saying, Master, Moses said, if a man die, having no children, his brother will marry his wife, and raise up a seed to his brother. Now there were with us 7 brothers, and the first, when he had married a wife, deceased, and having no issue, left his wife to his brother. Likewise the second also, and the third to the 7th. And last of all the woman died also. Therefore in the resurrection, whose wife will she be of the 7? For they all had her. Jesus answered and said to them, You do err, not knowing the Scriptures, nor the power of God. For in the resurrection they neither marry nor are given in marriage, but are as the angels of God in heaven. But as touching the resurrection of the dead, have you not read that what was spoken to you by God, saying, I am the God of Abraham, and the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob? God is not the God of the dead, but of the living. And when the multitude heard this, they were astonished at his doctrine. But when the Pharisees had heard that he had put the Sadducees to silence, they were gathered together. Then one of them, who was a lawyer, asked him a question, tempting him, and saying, Master, what is the greatest commandment in the law? Jesus said to him, You will love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your mind. This is the first and great commandment. And the second is like to it. You will love your neighbor as yourself. On these 2 commandments hang all the law and the prophets. While the Pharisees were gathered together, Jesus asked them, What do you think of Christ? Whose son is he? They said to him, The son of David. He said to them, How then does David in spirit call him Lord, saying, The Lord said to my Lord, Sit on my right hand, till I make your enemies your footstool. If David then call him Lord, how is he his son? And no man was able to answer him a word, neither did any man from that day forth ask him any more questions.